My wife and I have been together for 13 years, but then we were married 5 years ago, and now we have a baby under one. So all of those things take transitions, right? From going
Hmm.
quote unquote single to like dating to married, now living with somebody is a very different transition. When you're like you're living separately, and then now like, there's a kid in the mix, and like the kid's a lot of work,
Totally.
you know, and finding that balance of wanting to be a present parent while also trying to build a career, especially somebody like you and I, essentially self-employment, where it'd be one thing if we were like an architect and we put our 9 to 5 in and came home and it's like, okay, cool. Like when there's no 9 to 5, there's always something we could be doing, because one, when we're not working, we're not making money, and two, so the more work we do, the more money we make typically. So it's like, where is that balance of like, okay, I need this. I essentially say no to making more money at the moment, or growing the business, and say yes to growing the family, and because they both are valuable. It's just it's the balance. So
I,
I'm curious your opinion.
yeah, no, I think the key to all of this is there's a time and there's a place for working your butt off and eating rice and beans and just being deep in the grind and
Yeah.
maybe not hanging out with friends as much. And it's like, I don't know, that was kind of where we kind of got forced into that because of COVID, because we were like in lockdown
Mm.
already. But for us, that was that time. I think there's a time and place because when you work really, really hard in the beginning, you have all this growth that comes out of it. And then say you make money out of that, you invest that money. Like there's compound interest, there's the time value of money.
Mm.
So if you get started early, the growth is just exponential. It's like the snowball effect of a snowball. It just builds and builds and builds. So I feel like really putting in the work early on is not a bad play. Working 90 hours a week in your 20s before you have kids or right before you get married or when you're newly married, I don't think that's a bad play, but it's for a season. Because if you continue that the rest of your life, you're going to get burnt out. It's going to hurt your health. You might die early. Your marriage might fail. Like it can really wreck your life. And so I think there's a time and a place for it. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs fall into that because they don't know when to stop because they see, oh, if I work more, I'll make more money. And it's hard because you're like, man, I feel so blessed that I have this opportunity where
Mm.
I can work more and I can, and you look back at jobs that you used to do. Like I used to work at McDonald's and I got paid about $9 an hour at McDonald's. And I would work overtime because then I'd get a time and a half, working at McDonald's the summer
Mm-hmm.
that I got engaged to Abby. And so I looked back and I'm like, I'm making so much more money than I did when I worked at McDonald's. Like, I, this is so stupid. Like, why would I not work more right now? But then
Sure.
you have to realize, hey, I need balance in my life. I did my grind season. Now I need to have more balance and, make sure that I'm pouring into my marriage, my kids, my relationships, because those arguably are, you cannot put a price on that. So like those things are
Absolutely.
so much more valuable than anything money could ever buy.
And it's really interesting to piggyback on that, to say, speaking from self experience, when we're in that season of the grinding it out and then you transition to a new season, I find for myself, it can be really hard not to judge yourself for not being in that season anymore. And I'm like, man, I used to work 90 hours a week, or I used to put out this many videos or this many songs. And like, I'm almost feeling guilty because like, I'm not working as hard,
Yeah.
truthfully, in my life. And I'm like, man, and I feel like a bad business owner or bad musician or creator, whatever the case is, right? But in reality, I'm just putting my work effort. I kind of speaking to myself. I'm trying to remind myself as I tell you this, that I'm just putting my work effort into something else, and I'm building something else, and I'm building my family. And I heard I was speaking with somebody recently, and he was we were kind of talking about a similar topic, and he said, on your deathbed, nobody's ever like, oh, can I have a list? Go get my list of accolades of all the things I accomplished, or oh, get me my investment portfolio. No, it's oh, go get my family and my kids and bring them around me. And that's
100%.
truly what matters, right? And then everything else is the icing on the cake, right?
100. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head right there. You're completely right.
But it's way easier said than done. It's so much harder. It's to live out.